Hi, I'm Dave Wurzel, and you're watching PHTV4, and we are at the Doubletree in Allsip for a special event taking place today. Pathlights is hosting a Age Well Symposium, right? With me on my left, we've got the director, Elaine Grande, and we want to talk about what the symposium is. Well, a little bit about Pathlights first. You know, your organization is dedicated to helping people age well, right, with dignity, and you offer a variety of services that people can tap into if they need help of some kind. And this symposium, which is a new one, right, I want to ask you about the motive to do that, but I want to pull something from one of your newsletters I read recently, the changing demographics in the United States. In 1900, only 4% of the population was over 65. 17% of the population today is over 65. There's more of us, right? Or more of that age group. And so that changing demographic is creating some issues about life expectancy and quality of life. So can you talk about what was the motivation to have this event?
Thanks, Dave. So happy to be here with everyone today. As you mentioned, we are living longer. And we want to make sure that we're living a good quality of life as we age. So when we were sitting down, 2025 marks our 50th anniversary, so it was very important to us that we celebrated this in so many ways. It's a major milestone. We've been dedicated to the communities for 50 years, but also the communities have been dedicated to us. So we wanted to do something for the community, so this is our gift to help build stronger, healthier, livelier communities. As you mentioned, we're living longer, we are far exceeding expectations. Past generations, we're living decades longer than previous generations. So we wanted to provide this symposium to help people learn and get ideas about how to age well. So we have some very exciting speakers coming up. And a very important part is that we also have an opportunity and a responsibility for younger generations to set a good example so they can learn from us as we age how they can age and live longer, better, healthier lives.
That is an excellent point, because aging well doesn't begin at 70 or 75. It begins when you're much younger than that, sure. Right? Let me talk, you started to mention you have a variety of presenters today. Can you give us kind of an overview of who's here today?
So we have, and you'll have an opportunity to meet and speak with them. We have a gerontologist who is going to speak about the importance of approaching aging with a positive mindset. And she will have some wonderful ideas, strategies, and approaches so the journey can be long and healthy and have life in those later years. It is certainly a time, research shows that people have said that they are happier in their later years than in their younger years. And it can be a wonderful time of growth and wisdom and fulfillment. So we have to think positively about our lives as we age and not think of it as a time of decline.
Not be afraid of it.
Yeah, and embrace it, because it can be a very fulfilling chapter. We have a chair yoga instructor who's going to join us and show us ways where we can keep our bodies active and healthy, because it's important that we feed our body, mind, and our spirit. Right. So these are all important things. And then we have... and our final presenter will speak about ageism and how we can knock those negative stereotypes and work together as society to be positive about the aging years, the later years in life.
I love the idea of that, especially because our culture, this could be my criticism, our culture is so embracing of everything we can do to look young, stay young, No, we're all going to age, hopefully, right? And we want to do it as well as we can. So this is the first time you've had this Age Well Symposium, and I'm guessing you didn't know exactly what the response was going to be like to it. So can you talk to about, I know people had to register for it. What does the attendance look like for it? How do you feel about the way it's turning out right now?
Well, we're absolutely overwhelmed by the response. We thought about this. We thought, oh, it'd be great if we had 100, 150 people. We chose a location that was central in our service area because we wanted it to be accessible. We wanted to have it in a central location. We opened registration in July and it was full to capacity by the end of July, and we had to close it off and take a waiting list. So we are absolutely thrilled with the response. It's really important that we give this back to the community. This was our gift to the community. So we are hopeful that this is the first of many Age Well symposiums. We'll most likely have to look for a bigger venue because we have 250 people here today, and a waiting list that we had to shut down as well because there was over 50 people on the waiting list and we knew we couldn't accommodate them. So we're thrilled, and we know that the community is hungry for this information, so that's a positive thing for us.
It is. It's a strange kind of good problem. The need is there, obviously, for it. It shows how important this type of symposium is. And Pathlights does a lot of workshops and events throughout the year. And I don't know if you want to mention anything coming up, but you have this symposium, but people can go to your website and they'll see a whole slew of events and speakers and workshops. Do you want to mention anything coming up people should be mindful of?
Yes, I would say definitely go to our website. We have many caregiving support events that are happening constantly. And we have educational events. We have some legal support. You might want to learn about how the difference between a living will, a trust, a will, a power of attorney. We have experts there that can help with that. We're also working on future seminars that are coming up regarding falls prevention and how to remain in your home safely, and falls is a very important part of remaining in home. We're also working on pulling together a grief seminar, but our website would be the best place, or give us a call, and we'd be happy to provide you information on upcoming events.
Thank you, Elaine. I'm going to tell you that I've gone to your website. It is excellent. I've called your staff. They are wonderful. They're incredibly patient and helpful. So I want to encourage people to check out the website, call Pathlights if you have any questions or concerns. And again, a variety of workshops and conferences. Thank you very much for hosting this one. And maybe we can talk to a couple of presenters, yes?
Wonderful, yes.
All right.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, we're able to get a couple minutes with one of the presenters today, Colleen Shea Beckvar. Colleen, thank you for taking some time. Colleen, your topic is interesting. And your background is really interesting because I've been in education forever. I didn't know this was an option. Gerontology.
Yes.
All right. Can you talk about what a gerontologist is and maybe how you got into this area?
I'd be happy to. Thank you so much. Gerontologist, I will start by saying what it is not. So a geriatrician is to older adults what a pediatrician is to kids, but a gerontologist has studied aging from multiple perspectives. So the sociology of aging, the economics of aging, the biology of aging, etc. And that is I have a master's of science in gerontology. That plus my 30 years of service to older adults and their families makes me, in my world, a gerontologist.
I was to say the topic, it seems like, yes, this is a really important area of study, especially when you look at our population aging the way it is. Can I ask how you decided to pursue this? Because it sounds like this is a career life path for you.
It is what I call my life's work. I was very naturally drawn to working with older adults at a very young age. I had 4 generations living under one roof growing up. So my grandmother, who would become my very best friend, I saw her talking with my father about her father. And he was really struggling with what we would now call Parkinson's and probably Lewy body dementia. I didn't know that that's what that was called at the time. I just saw her very personal struggle about how she was going to meet his needs. She was still working, and something moved in me, truly. And in that moment, I knew I needed to not see the people that I love, like my grandmother, suffer. And I felt called to do something very different. And so I would commit in that moment and for the rest of my life to serving this population. So I don't know if you remember, you said you've been in education, those science fair projects. So science fair projects, mine in 7th grade was taste versus age. And does the sense of taste change as we get older? It does, by the way, but I was really fascinated by that and have never stopped being fascinated by aging.
Wow. It's really interesting. One of the things you just said that I find, like a light went off for me was that the way our culture is living today, I don't know how often, I don't know the statistics on it, maybe you do, where you have intergenerational families within a household or in close proximity to each other. You go off and live on your own. Your parents are over there, your grandparents are over there. When you get to be part of their aging experience, it certainly changes your perspective on what that looks like and maybe what we can or maybe even can't do. Can you speak to that?
I can say that really it's a very Western way to age, is to age apart from your family. In Eastern cultures, it is much more common that aging adults stay with the family and they contribute to the rearing of the children. It is very different in the Western culture. And I think that I was very fortunate to be part of an intergenerational family. And the science really bears out that reaching across those generations is so good for both populations, or for all populations. So it can really be, I know my grandmother used to say that living among her grandchildren kept her young. Those were her words. And of course, I got to have a loving parent without punishment with my grandmother. She was my best friend. So it really did work out great for us anyhow.
And I'd like to, I can hear it in the way you're talking about your relationship with your grandmother. In your talk, you talked about some activities, the importance of mindset. So can you speak to a little bit about what your presentation is about and some of the key aspects that people should consider walking away from it?
Well, I hope people walk away with the understanding that mindset is everything. And we have a very difficult job as aging consumers because we're really combating this bombardment of the beauty industry, the pharma industry, even the medical and healthcare industries are telling us to stay small. And it's about mindset. And mindset is very individualized, but it is also the number one predictor as to how we age. In other words, how you view aging will create your aging journey more than genetics, more than exercise, more than quitting smoking. I mean, it's very powerful, and I think that people don't know that. So that was important for me to share with the group.
Yeah, it's a wonderful message, especially because you are talking about something you have control over. You can control your mindset. There are certain things in life you can't, but you can do that one, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's an empowering thing, which is part of the point of sharing this information with the audience, is to let them know that absolutely this is within your control. There's many things that are not, but this is. And it's not easy because you're undoing a lot of the social cues, and we just don't have a lot of support. But what's really exciting about this is that the people who are aging now, who we're all seeing, people that are coming to this presentation today, they are the ones who are blowing the trends out of the water, the things that we all used to expect from aging. They are aging differently, and they're the example. They're the ones that are creating these exciting pathways for us all to age however we want to.
I'd like to ask you one final question, and I certainly, for people who don't get to see the presentation, I wish they had, and hopefully they get a chance at some other point to hear you speak. Your topic is excellent. The information you provide is wonderful. What's like something somebody can do, part of changing that mindset? You mentioned creativity and community, things that people can do that are part of that mindset towards how they age.
Sure. Yes. So there is sort of this trifecta that if you are in community with people, which just means you and somebody else, it doesn't have to mean a room full of people, but when you are among people, you connect. Your brain starts learning new things about that person, about the topic you're learning about. We hear a lot about art classes, whether that's, sculpting, painting, dancing, you name it. Art is a very wide topic. If people participate in that and they are building community because they're doing that with somebody else, either in person or online, but I prefer in person, that's always my recommendation. That plus the changes that literally rewire in our brains when we start learning new things is a powerful way to change the body biologically.
I like the idea that this is a win-win in a lot of ways. It's not like I'm just going to take an art class to fill time. No, you're going to take the art class because it's going to benefit you in so many ways beyond just that immediate sense of I'm taking art, right?
Absolutely. Then there's something about art that evokes something deeply personal with all of us. If you connect with the art medium, if you don't like to paint and you think you're terrible at it, try something else. But it is very powerful to try something new, to evoke those emotions that ordinarily come from art and allow your brain to respond and your body to respond biologically to those changes.
And that's an excellent point. We aren't talking about just art classes. We're talking about engaging your creativity in some way, connecting with people, and then how that'll impact the quality of your longevity at that point. Yes?
That's exactly
I was paying attention.
That's a good job. Good job. You did
No, you
it.
did a good job. I heard it. I'm going to work on it. Well, Colleen, thank you very much. Thank you
My
for presenting. I hope people get to pick up your message again. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're here with Leanne, who's one of the presenters at the Age Well Symposium today. Leanne, your specialty is yoga and a specific type of yoga you're going to be talking about today in your presentation. But first, can you talk about your background in yoga? How did you, make that transition or step into this part of your career?
Yeah, I started doing yoga about 6 years ago. I had found myself turning 55, and after a lifetime of 42 years or so of being in the beauty industry, a hairstylist, teaching cosmetology and aesthetics, I was starting to develop a lot of the repetitive movement injuries that so many of my colleagues had developed and were actually forced out of the industry because of it. And I was at the chiropractor, napropath, my regular doctor on a regular basis. And one of my doctors suggested I start, trying yoga. And so I did that, and I was really amazed at how quickly I was able to start from just these very basic, 20-minute routines with the chair or on the floor, very basic, to gradually building that up to where I was able to do longer, better routines. And within a short amount of time, within the first month or two, I was completely pain-free. And I could honestly say that since I started doing yoga, I have not been to my doctor or the chiropractor or napropath for any pain-related issues related to my career. So I wanted to bring that to my students. I teach cosmetology and aesthetics so that they could start doing this early on in life so that they don't develop these issues as they age. Then I started to think about, what if you're already there? What if you're already a senior citizen and you're already struggling with these issues? I started doing some chair yoga with my mother and her friends, and they loved it, and I saw the benefits that it brought to them. And I decided to get certified in teaching chair yoga. And the rest is history.
You bring up an interesting point, the therapeutic quality to it, and also who can or maybe should do yoga. It really is an every person thing at any stage in your life. It can benefit you in some way.
Sure.
And in your case, an excellent example of how it can help you recover or deal with, certain either health or injury or pain issues, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it prevents them in the first place is the point. You prevent these injuries from happening to begin with. You're able to maintain flexibility, strength, coordination, balance. It improves mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah. You're talking about a quality of life improvement all around. And specifically, you mentioned chair yoga, which is your topic today. Can you talk about how chair yoga is different than maybe some of the other forms of yoga that people more traditionally think of, and why it's especially good for the like an Age Well Symposium where you're dealing with a senior audience?
Sure. Yeah, so chair yoga is, when I first started doing it, I was thinking, that, this is just a piece of cake, there's nothing to it. But as I really started, when I became certified, I was like, wow, I'm doing some of these routines, and I was actually sore the next day, and I'm someone who does yoga on a regular basis. So it is different than regular yoga because it's done seated or standing with the support of a chair. So it's great for people who have never done yoga before, just starting out, the aging population, because they may already have balance issues. They may already have flexibility issues. So the chair enables you to participate without having to worry about falling, without having to worry about being sore the next day, and not being able to do it at all.
As I'm listening to you, you bring up an interesting point that I think people think of yoga and, being all bendy and flexible, which it can be that, but it really can be for anybody. You work at your flexibility level, right?
Yes, yeah. There's a yoga for everybody. When I was younger, I would go to these classes, be sweating, and, it was all about building, just physical, how you're going to look, right? As we get older, chair yoga is especially good for increasing flexibility, maintaining flexibility, and strength and balance. And pain management is another big one. Arthritis, excellent for arthritis management. There's just so many benefits. And again, I'm a living proof of that. I started at 55. And I'm still in my career. I'm still able to keep on doing the things that I love. And when people say, wow, how are you still doing that? And I say, yoga. It's all yoga. I wouldn't be able to be doing these things without yoga. Yeah. And again, chair yoga is a big part of that, because that's where I started off, because, I was 55 and hadn't done yoga in, 25 years when I went back to it.
No, you bring up a really excellent point in the benefits of it and what it can do for a person. That's that type of exercise. My question related to that, though, is how often does somebody need to do something like this? Like, how much time a day are we talking about? How many times a week to get the benefits that you're talking about?
Yeah, so any amount of time that someone can dedicate to chair yoga is beneficial. Ideally, 2 to 3 times a week is great. But if you can only do once a week, it's definitely better than not doing any times a week. Right. And it doesn't have to be where you're dedicating, this half hour of, having a quiet room with candles burning or anything like that. It could just be done. That's what's great about chair yoga, too. If I'm stuck by a train, I can start doing some things in my car. Sitting at any time that you're sitting in a chair, you could be doing some of these movements to just incorporate that into your day. But, even if it's 15 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week, it's beneficial.
Okay. And so you brought up, excellent. I felt like you were leading me into my next question, because you talked about doing it anywhere. You're in your car, anywhere you can grab a chair. If I want to take up chair yoga, where can I learn about the movements that you mentioned, what the routine might look like to generate like a 15 or 20-minute program, resources or information?
Absolutely. I'm not teaching a chair yoga class regularly right now. I hope to in the future, but I'm not right now. But Pathlights did put together a list of area places, libraries, senior centers, community centers that are offering chair yoga classes. Also, just so many yoga studios now. You go online or you call them; they should be able to tell you, when they're offering chair yoga classes. Okay. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Leanne. There are a lot of great organizations out there that do a variety of yogas, and certainly Pathlights is a wonderful place to start. They have the list. Good luck with your presentation. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I know that you're going to speak on it. I'd like to participate. That's my plan, that you're going to present, and you'll actually, people get to do a little bit of have the experience, right?
Yeah. That's my hope. And my hope is that everybody participates and everybody brings this outside of here when they leave, that they continue to learn and to grow and practice yoga. It's definitely a life changer, can be a life changer. And that's why I'm here, because this is what I want to do. I want to bring this to as many people as possible.
Well, thank you for participating in the symposium. It is a wonderful program, and I'm sure many people are going to benefit by it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're here with Dr. Lydia Manning, who is one of the presenters at the Age Well Symposium. And Lydia, your doctorate degree is kind of interesting. As somebody in education for 35 years at the high school level, I don't know I've had too many students go into your area. So I want to talk about what your doctorate is in and then how you decided to pursue that area of study.
Thank you, Dave. I'm happy to talk about it. I have a PhD in gerontology. A little side trivia, there are probably about 700 of us with that degree in the US. There are only 10 programs that offer a PhD in gerontology. So we are a unique set of people with unique skills and training.
The first thing that came to my head, if we heard 700 of anything, we'd be worried about extinction. But yours is probably a growing number, right?
In theory, you would think it is a growing number, but interestingly, we are seeing gerontology programs closing all over the country. And as an expert in aging and somebody who understands the demography, right, we look at the population of people over 65 increasing. 10,000 people are turning 65 every day, as well as 75. But I think that ageism, attitudes about aging, societal pressures, people aren't going into the field, which is fascinating to me. Similarly to geriatrics, which is the medical discipline and study of aging, we're seeing a shrinkages and people choosing to go into geriatrics. And I do think ageism is a part of why people are favoring youth, right? We're a youth-oriented society, and I think you're seeing some of the ageist beliefs and attitudes play out in our educational and vocational choices.
You know, just some of the facts you just mentioned make it all that much more important that gerontology is something that people study and we pay attention to. If our population is aging, the need for it is obviously that much more important or critical. And you dropped a word, which I think is your topic. I want to ask you about that. You use the word ageism. What is ageism, and how are you speaking to that today?
We will define ageism, which is the perceived prejudice or discrimination towards someone based on their chronological age. It's a loaded definition. Robert Butler coined the term in 1969, and we as gerontologists have been combating and dismantling ageism in our work for the last 40, 50 years. And I think because you're seeing you're seeing an aging population, you can look and go out in the world and see older adults. I think we're starting to have a public conversation around ageism, what it is and how to combat it. But it's essentially based on chronological age. And what's interesting about perceived chronological age is that with the expansion of the life course, we know that chronological age is less and less a predictor variable for anything. For example, two people can be 65 and have such varied aging experiences. It's not as a great a predictor variable as it used to be when average life expectancy was 65. You know, when Social Security was implemented in 1935, most people lived just 4 years beyond receiving benefits, and now people are living 25 to 30 years. So it's just becoming such a process of individuation, aging is. But I still think, again, ageism is so prevalent, ubiquitous. It's the one prejudice. I think about The Late Show. I think about Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon. They love to make fun of older adults, and nobody gets canceled for that. It's still the one prejudice that is okay.
And you bring up an interesting, the societal attitude about aging, and yet we all hope to age and age well, right? You know, you brought up two things, and I kind of want to touch on both. I come back to the first thing. How did you decide to go into this area of study? Obviously, there's a need for it. And then I want to talk to you about how do we, deal with ageism when we face it or are confronted with it or maybe victimized by it. But first, how did you decide to pursue this area?
Yeah, I have always, since a small child, gravitated toward older adults. And for me, it was about learning that if I spent time with older adults as a small kid, I could get away with much more than if I spent time at the peer table.
This is grandma and grandpa being a little bit kinder.
Aunties, like, oh, you could wear lipstick, you could say swear words, you knew all the family gossip, but just this appreciation that there was some magic and wisdom happening, and was always intrigued and fascinated by aging. And then as my educational trajectory unfolded, I realized I could study aging. I could get a PhD in something that I was intrigued by and loved. And I will often say, I think gerontology shows me. It feels much more like a vocation than it does a career. It is a calling. And so I've spent the last 25 years in the field in the service of older adults.
It definitely sounds like a calling, the way you talk about it, and then certainly your family and personal connections that way. All right, so ageism, and I'm going to guess anybody of an age has kind of bumped into this at some point in their life. Can you give me examples of the types of unfortunate experiences people might have through ageism, and then ways somebody might respond to it?
Yeah, we can talk about internalized ageism, the idea that you're holding ideas or messages. We live in a very capitalist economy, and so it's much about production and beauty and youth-oriented. There's a multi-billion-dollar industry around anti-ageism, so it's hard to buffer that messaging. So internalize the ways we think about ourselves as growing older, the ways others think about us. It's pervasive, it's ubiquitous, but there are strategies to combat it, right? And so I will always say sunlight is the best policy for transparency. If you feel it, if you see it, name it and say something about it. And so when somebody says, "You look good for your age," my response is, well, you look good too. I mean, for my age, what is that? So I think there are these subtle ways that you can kind of push it back and give it to people. And again, I try to think about if you heard somebody say something derogatory about someone based on race or gender, you would feel compelled to say something. And so treat age the same way. If it feels questionable, it's probably questionable, and it's okay to help people re-script what they're trying to mean. Or to simply ask, what do you mean by that? What does that mean for my age?
I like as you said, put it in the sunlight too. Let's put it in the open, acknowledge it, not brush it aside, not ignore it, or not allow it to just go unattended, right?
We have to name it, and we have to combat it and dismantle it. We have to call it out loud, to name it. And then to teach people about it. So part of my job as an advocate is to have these conversations. I feel like I've done my work when people who know me, both personally and professionally, will correct themselves in front of me, or will come to me and say, here's an example, right? My mother teaching the cable company that their practices are ageist and the assumptions they make about her based on perceived chronological age. That feels like work, good work's being done.
It's a very important work, and thank you for doing it. Thank you for being at the forum today, the symposium. Wonderful message. Okay, thank you. So that's the Age Well Symposium 2025. Pathlights is hosting at the Doubletree in Alsip. Great event. I definitely encourage you to check out the Pathlights website for future events and programming. And if you missed it this year, hopefully they'll offer another symposium in the future. I'm Dave Worzel. You've been watching PHTV4. Thank you for watching.